My parents only seem to care about my cousin's Ivy League degree. At dinner they said, "You're just not the bright one." So I quietly slid my patent deal worth $4.2 million across the table. You still think I'm dumb? A few days later, they called me 47 times. My name's Trevor. I'm 33, live in Pittsburgh, and I work in tech, well, kind of. I write logistics software. Not the flashy AI stuff everyone talks about on LinkedIn. I write the kind of boring, practical code that helps warehouse fleets find shorter routes, use less gas, and shave minutes off deliveries. It's niche. Quiet. But it works. I guess you could call me a founder now, since I technically own a company. Small team. 7 people. We're based out of a beat-up old brick building near the Strip District. There's a leak in the back corner when it rains and a family of raccoons that live in the alley. I kinda like it. Anyway, that's not why I'm writing. I'm writing because of a dinner that changed the way I look at my family forever. A dinner where I realized no matter how hard you try, some people will always see you as the one who didn't quite measure up. A dinner where my mom looked me in the face and said, "You're just not the bright one," like she was pointing out a weather forecast. Before I get into that moment, and what happened after, let me give you a little context. I've got a cousin named Ainsley. You ever have someone in your family who's like, the golden child, even though they're not your parents' kid? That's Ainsley. Ainsley's 2 years younger than me. We grew up together. Spent summers at our grandparents' place in Erie, rode bikes down the same cracked sidewalks, got sunburned at Presque Isle, played hide and seek in the cornfields behind their house. Back then, we were equals. Then high school happened. Ainsley joined every club, got straight A's, played cello in youth orchestra, did mission trips in Peru or Ghana, I can't remember. I barely made it through algebra without giving up. Teachers loved her. My parents loved her. I was a good kid too, just not like that. By the time college rolled around, she got into Harvard. My mom cried. Actual tears. My dad grilled steaks to celebrate. I didn't even go to the party. I was working late at a Jiffy Lube because I needed to make rent for the basement apartment I was living in across town. I didn't go to college. Couldn't afford it. Didn't really want to. My mom told people I was still figuring things out. She said it with that tight, polite smile that barely hides embarrassment. She still says it, even now. What they didn't know was that I'd been learning to code since I was 16. Self-taught. Messed around with open source stuff, built tools for friends who ran small businesses. I was never flashy. Never wanted the spotlight. Just wanted to build things that worked. They never asked about it. Fast forward to Labor Day last year. My folks invited the whole extended family for dinner. This wasn't unusual. They do this once or twice a year. The usual spread: grilled chicken, potato salad, corn on the cob, someone brings a store-bought pie and claims they made it. You know the deal. Their house is in MT Lebanon, pretty neighborhood, tree-lined streets, brick houses, lots of gray shutters and matching lawn gnomes. I showed up around 4 with a batch of homemade roasted poblano salsa and a 6-pack of East End brewing ale. I'd been up late the night before debugging a weird issue with a client's dispatch module, so I was running on fumes. Still, I made the effort. Wore clean jeans, even put on cologne. My mom greeted me with her usual, "Oh, Trev, you look tired. Are you sleeping enough?" instead of hello. I gave her a hug and forced a smile. "Nice to see you too, Mom." Ainsley showed up about 20 minutes later, wearing a crisp white blazer over a silk blouse and high-waisted trousers. She looked like she just walked off a magazine shoot. People actually applauded when she walked in. No joke. My Uncle Ben said, "The star has arrived," while my mom rushed over to give her a glass of wine like she was royalty. "Guess I missed the red carpet," I muttered, slipping into the corner of the patio. We sat down to eat around 6. Big table out on the back deck. The sun was setting just behind the maple tree in their yard. My dad lit those little tiki torches they think look fancy, and someone turned on the Bluetooth speaker to some jazz playlist. The conversation, of course, was 90% about Ainsley. How's New York? What's your firm working on now? Did you really meet the CEO of, what's that company again? She talked about acquisitions, markets, deal-making. Everyone nodded like they understood. My mom turned to me once during the whole meal. Once? "So, are you still doing that app thing?" I smiled without showing my teeth. "It's software for last-mile delivery. We've got some good contracts. Keeps me busy." "That's good," she said quickly and turned right back to Ainsley. I sipped my beer and watched the flame in the tiki torch flicker. And then came the moment. My mom was cutting into her overcooked chicken when she said it. No warning, no venom. Just matter of fact, like she was stating the day of the week. You know, Ainsley's always been the driven one. I guess Trevor's just not the bright one. It was like time stopped. My fork hovered in the air. My dad kept chewing. Ainsley blinked and looked down, like even she knew that crossed a line. I waited a second. Then another. No one corrected her. No one said a word. So I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope I had brought, and slid it across the table. "What's this?" my mom asked. "Open it." She flipped it open, pulled out the printed letter. My deal memo. The official purchase agreement. For $0.2 million for exclusive rights to the back-end architecture I'd spent 3 years developing. The deal had closed 3 days before. My lawyer told me to wait before announcing anything. I didn't plan to show it tonight, but here we were. Her eyes scanned the paper. She frowned, looked up at me, then back at the page. This is real? Yep. You sold something for $4 million? For $0.2, I corrected. After legal fees and taxes, a little less. Still good, though. Dead silence. You could hear the cicadas buzzing in the trees. Ainsley looked at me like I'd just spoken Swahili. Wait, you built this yourself? Yeah. But how? I shrugged. You know, while I was figuring things out. My dad coughed and said something like, "That's impressive." My mom just sat there blinking, hands shaking slightly, trying to process what had just happened. I didn't gloat. Didn't smile. I just leaned back in my chair and took another sip of beer. The rest of dinner was awkward, as you can imagine. My mom barely spoke. My dad tried to ask questions, but they were surface level. Ainsley made a comment about getting into tech investments herself, which made me want to throw myself off the deck. I left right after dessert. Didn't hug anyone. Didn't say goodbye. The next morning, I had 9 missed calls. By the end of the week, 47. Voicemails from my mom. Some apologizing. Some crying. One where she asked if I was mad and promised she didn't mean it like that. My dad sent texts, "Proud of you. Let's catch up. Come over for dinner next week?" Even Ainsley messaged me on Instagram. "Hey, didn't realize you were doing so well. You ever think about expanding into enterprise logistics? I know some people who'd love to connect." Right. That's where I'll leave it for now. The fallout's still unfolding. But let's just say this. Don't let anyone tell you what your worth is, especially not people who only see value in gold stars and Ivy League schools. Sometimes, the quiet one is the one who's actually listening, learning, building, and sometimes he brings the receipts. The first time I listened to one of my mom's voicemails that week, I was sitting at my desk at the office, half-eaten breakfast sandwich in one hand, staring at a spreadsheet full of logistics bottlenecks in Scranton. Her voice came through my earbuds, soft at first, like she was trying not to wake a baby. "Trevor, honey. I'm sorry if what I said upset you. That's not what I meant. I was just trying to say that Ainsley has always been book smart, and, you know, you've always had other strengths." I paused the message. Other strengths. That one stung more than the original comment. It's like when people say you have a great personality right after they remind you you're not attractive. A compliment duct taped to an insult. I didn't delete the voicemail, but I didn't call her back either. Not yet. The weird thing is, I didn't feel angry. Not exactly. It was more like a knot in my chest that had been there for years, quiet, dull, familiar, and finally started to loosen. I think I was grieving the idea that I'd ever get the version of my parents who saw me clearly. That Friday, I got a knock on the glass wall of my office. It was Sean, my lead developer. Kid's 27, brilliant, tattooed sleeves, wears nothing but band tees and gym shorts. We're opposites, but we click. "Yo," he said. "You good?" I nodded. "Yeah, just family stuff." He dropped into the chair across from my desk. "You get your money yet?" "Hit the account this morning." Sean let out a low whistle. "Damn. You celebrate yet?" "Nope. Had Pop-Tarts for breakfast." He laughed. "That's a felony, man." We joked for a bit, but he could tell I wasn't really there. "You gonna tell Em?" he finally asked. I stared at my keyboard. I already did. He raised an eyebrow. Let's just say, it wasn't the celebration I pictured. Later that night, I got a text from Ainsley. "Ainsley, 9:12 p.m., still blown away by your deal. I didn't even know you were in software? We should talk. I think there's real potential if you're interested in scaling or maybe an acquisition angle. I know people." I stared at the message for a long time. There was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when I would have been flattered. When I would have jumped at the chance to be acknowledged by her, let alone offered a professional connection. But now? I could see through it. She didn't actually care about what I built. She just saw dollar signs. Potential. Leverage. And she wanted in. I didn't reply. The next morning, I finally called my dad. He picked up on the second ring. "Trev? Hey." There was a pause, like he wasn't sure if I was calling to yell or cry. "I'm glad you called. I leaned against my kitchen counter. The silence stretched. Look, he said eventually. Your mom didn't mean, she just gets excited. You know how she is. Dad, she said I wasn't the bright one. I know. It came out wrong. I bit my lip. Did it? More silence. Your mom sees the world a certain way, he said, slower now. Grades. Diplomas. Fancy titles. That's how she was raised. It's not personal. It's always been personal, I said quietly. You just don't see it. He sighed. She's been talking about that paper you brought. Says she wants to learn more. What you're working on. She's proud of you. I didn't say anything. She is, he said again. We both are. I almost believed him. Sunday afternoon, I got invited to lunch. Just me, my mom, and my dad. No Ainsley. No extended family. They said they wanted to talk. I didn't really want to go, but I said yes. Maybe out of curiosity. Maybe because some small, naive part of me was hoping for something genuine. We met at a small restaurant in Shadyside, quiet, cozy, lots of older couples and soft jazz. I wore a button-down. My mom looked surprised. You look nice, she said. Thanks, I said. I didn't tell her it was the same shirt I wore the day I signed the patent deal. The waiter brought water. We ordered. Small talk. My dad asked about that Akron deal, and I gave a very sanitized, high-level explanation of how route optimization works. My mom nodded like she understood, but I could tell she didn't. Then she put her napkin down and looked at me. I owe you an apology, she said. I looked at her. I've been unfair. For years, probably. That surprised me more than the deal itself. I think I got caught up in all the milestones. Grades, schools, job titles. That's what I knew. That's what made sense to me. But you've been doing something real this whole time, and I didn't see it. I stayed quiet. Not out of anger. Just. I wanted to let her speak. You didn't take the path I expected. And I guess I thought that meant you were lost. But you weren't. You were just building something different. I nodded slowly. I was. I'm sorry, she said again. It didn't fix everything. But it landed. And that was something. I didn't hug her. Not yet. But I smiled. That was enough for now. Later that week, I found out from a mutual cousin that Ainsley had brought up my deal in some investor brunch in Manhattan. Bragging. As if she'd mentored me. She said you were this underrated genius from Pittsburgh, my cousin joked over the phone. Like you were her discovery or something. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I expected it. That's the thing about people like Ainsley. They'll ignore you until you succeed. Then they'll rewrite the story to make it about them. But I've got the receipts. And I'm just getting started. A week after that awkwardly heartfelt lunch in Shadyside, things started to shift in small, weird ways. For one, my mom started sending me links. Like, actual links. Articles about emerging trends in tech logistics, pieces from Forbes or Medium about routing software or last-mile delivery innovations. Sometimes she added little notes like, saw this and thought of you. Maybe this is similar to what you're doing? I didn't know what to do with that at first. Part of me rolled my eyes like she was trying too hard. Another part of me recognized it for what it was, her clumsy attempt to understand a world she'd never bothered to explore before. And, maybe, try to connect with me. So I started replying. Just short, polite messages. Yeah, this one's actually related to what our second project does. Good find. This is similar to what we built in beta. One day she sent me a podcast episode. This guy sounds a little like you. Self-taught, did something outside the box. I listened to it. And honestly, the guy did sound like me. Quiet, underestimated, made fun of in school for being too into computers. Built something big while everyone thought he was wasting his time. I didn't tell her this, but that one got to me. Then came the invitation I wasn't ready for. It was a Sunday night. I was eating leftover Thai and watching a terrible 80s action movie when I got a text from my dad. Dad, 8:13 p.m., Mom wants to know if you'd be willing to speak at the community center next month. Career night thing. Just a short talk. Nothing big. I had to reread it. This was the same community center where my mom used to organize science fairs. The one where Ainsley gave a whole speech about making goals and chasing Ivy League dreams when she was 24. I remember because I'd helped set up the projector that night. No one had asked me to speak. Now they were. I didn't respond right away. I actually put my phone face down and sat there for 20 minutes. My pad thai got cold. Eventually I texted back. Me, 8:41 p.m., yeah. I'll do it. So now I'm standing in front of a group of about 30 high school students in a drafty rec room with water-stained ceiling tiles and folding chairs, holding a beat-up MacBook and trying to figure out how to make routing algorithms sound even remotely interesting. My mom's in the back row. She brought brownies. She hasn't spoken a word yet, just gave me a tight smile when I walked in. I take a breath. Hey, I'm Trevor. I'm from here. Grew up like a lot of you probably did, public school, not rich, not a straight-A student. In fact, I almost failed pre-calc, twice. A few kids laugh. Good. That's a start. I didn't go to college. Couldn't afford it. And also, I didn't really want to. I liked building stuff more than writing essays. I taught myself to code watching free tutorials online. Back then, no one really got it. Especially not my family. I glanced toward my mom without meaning to. Her face doesn't move. But I kept at it. I started building tools to help small delivery businesses. You know those beat-up vans that drop off stuff at 6 a.m. and get stuck in traffic for half the day? I figured out how to make their routes faster, smarter, cheaper. I flip my laptop around, show a live map of one of our client networks in Toledo. Long story short, someone noticed. They paid me for the system. A lot. A girl in the front row raises her hand. How much is a lot? I grin. For $0.2 million. There's a collective whoa from the room. Some kid in the back yells, bro. I hold up a hand. Before you get any ideas, most of that went into taxes, lawyers, reinvesting in my company. I still drive a truck with a cracked taillight. A few chuckles. But what I want you to know is, you don't have to look like success to become successful. You don't need someone else's map. You can build your own. I wrap up the talk. A few students come up after with questions. One girl asks if I think it's better to learn code or go to college. I tell her honestly, depends on who you are. But don't ever think you only have one path. As people start clearing out, I feel a tap on my arm. It's my mom. Her eyes are glassy. She opens her mouth like she's about to say something, but nothing comes out. She just hugs me. Right there. No warning. No half smile or awkward pat on the shoulder. Just a real hug. I stand still for a second. Then I hug her back. And in that moment, I realize something. She might never fully understand what I do. She may never be fluent in code or routing logistics or software licensing. But maybe, just maybe, she's finally starting to see me. After the hug at the community center, my mom started acting different. In a good way. Like she was finally learning how to be curious about me instead of critical. She stopped asking surface-level questions and actually listened. One evening, a few weeks later, she came over with a tray of lasagna and said, "I've been reading about software patents. It's a whole other world, huh?" It was awkward. Weird, even. But it was real. And it meant something. Meanwhile, Ainsley? Oh, she ramped things up. I'd ignored her DMs and texts, so she switched to emailing me from her firm address. Subject lines like, exciting collaboration opportunity, let's talk scale. I see big potential here. And my personal favorite, you're brilliant, Trevor. Let's build an empire. Brilliant. Now I was brilliant. Funny how fast people change their minds when you have a 7-figure transaction under your belt. I didn't reply to any of it. I knew what she was doing. She wanted in. She wanted to be close enough to say she had something to do with my success. Maybe she thought she could even pull me into one of her deals, spin my work into something she could pitch to investors, take a fat cut. But she miscalculated. She'd spent so long dismissing me that she forgot I was paying attention too. It all came to a head in December. Ainsley was in town for the holidays, and my parents decided to throw one of their usual family dinners. The kind where the lights are too bright and the music is too soft, and everyone tries to pretend like they enjoy each other more than they do. When I got there, she was already holding court at the kitchen island with a glass of wine, talking to my Uncle Ben and a couple other relatives. My mom gave me a nervous look as I took off my coat. Ainsley saw me and immediately put her wine down. There he is. The tech mogul of Pittsburgh. I gave her a flat smile. Hey. She came over and gave me an air kiss, like we were old friends. I've been dying to talk to you, she said. We have got to collaborate. There's a fund I'm connected to. They'd eat your backend logic up. If we packaged it right, we could pitch it as an enterprise solution. Maybe even be 2B SaaS with a logistics overlay. She was name-dropping buzzwords like it was a drinking game. I looked around. The whole room had gone quiet. People were watching us now. I knew this was her move, pull me in publicly, try to look like the visionary who discovered me. So I gave her what she wanted. For about 2 minutes. I nodded slowly. That's interesting. Actually, I've been talking to a few funds myself. Her eyes lit up. Really? Which ones? I leaned in slightly. I'm in talks with a private equity firm out of Austin. They're interested in full acquisition. Oh, she blinked. Wow. What kind of valuation? Low 8 figures, I said casually, sipping my drink. Still early. But they're really excited about the autonomy. Said it's rare to find a product this lean that's not tangled up in outside investors. She hesitated. Well, that's why we should talk. There's synergy here, Trevor. I could bring in capital and structure. We'd scale this together. You'd keep control. I'd handle the big rooms. I nodded again. Tempting. She smiled. Thought she had me. And then I said it. But the thing is, I've already been down the road where someone sees me as less than I am until I become profitable. I'm not looking for validation anymore, Ainsley. I'm building something clean. No strings. No spin. She blinked. The smile cracked just a little. I went on. I appreciate the offer. I really do. But this? It's mine. It always was. And I don't need someone to make it sound shiny. It's already working. Her mouth opened slightly. I didn't mean to, I know you didn't. That's kind of the point. Then I turned away and walked into the dining room. Left her standing there in front of the whole family. My uncle looked stunned. My aunt actually clapped. I didn't look back. A few days later, I got one last message from Ainsley. Ainsley, via email. Guess I underestimated you. That was always my mistake. Congratulations. You played it smart. No follow-up. No call. I archived the message. Didn't even bother to reply. That winter, my company signed its biggest contract yet with a national freight distributor. We moved into a bigger office in the Strip, with working heat and no raccoons. I bought a second truck, not fancy, just something newer, and gave my old one to my junior dev who needed wheels. My dad started calling me for advice. My mom made me a LinkedIn account and filled it with articles she thought I should read. She even told a neighbor that I was a bit of a tech whiz. Progress. One afternoon in February, I stopped by my parents' house to fix the Wi-Fi. Afterward, my mom made coffee, and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she once said I wasn't the bright one. She looked at me and said, I was wrong. I didn't need her to say it. But hearing it? It felt like setting down a backpack I'd been carrying for 20 years. That's the thing about revenge. It doesn't always come in fire and fury. Sometimes it's a quiet smile, a signed contract, and walking away from people who only loved the version of you they could understand. The real revenge? Is becoming someone they can't ignore, but choosing to keep your peace anyway. Because when they finally see you, you don't need their applause. You already know.